So in this next series, which I'm going to call Mind Mirrors, because they are literally me attempting to mirror through a video what I experience in my mind when listening to certain songs, I told myself once I hit 1K views, I would post the first one, and I've already hit over 30K, so here we are. And thank you guys so much for that, by the way. So I don't know if it's OCD, ADHD, synesthesia, or just a very powerful imagination, but ever since I was little, I would get these very powerful experiences when listening to certain songs. These very rapid images pass through your head, and it usually crescendos to a point where I feel very connected with everything, and everything just seems to make sense. This specific video that I'm going to talk about is one of my favorites because I do believe it truly helps to convey very accurately what this experience feels like. But basically, this will be a breakdown frame by frame because there's so much information packed into it, so you can hopefully get more of a genuine understanding of what I'm trying to convey. In the very first frame, we have a zoom in on my eyes, which is obviously just to reinforce that this is all happening inside my mind. The song specifically made me see like a timeline of everything happening at once. So this frame shows before the Big Bang with a white spirit-like force moving, and the words from Genesis 1:2 are displayed underneath, which state the Spirit of God hovered over the waters in English and Hebrew, and is describing the moment before there was any creation and declaring the eternal nature of God. This is one of my favorite verses because of how it can be interpreted in so many different ways, but above all for me it reinforces the idea of the omnipresence of God in the infinite nature of the source consciousness that we are all a part of, and how it is and was always there without a beginning or an end. Next we see the Big Bang and creation of galaxies, the sun, and the earth pretty rapidly. We have the lyrics connect to the sky play, while a very fast image from the Battle of LA, also known as the Great Air Raid of Los Angeles, pops up on the screen, which was when a UFO flew over LA during World War II in 1942, causing the military to open fire on it to no avail. To this day, nobody really knows what it was or where it came from, but many attribute it to a UFO. I am very fascinated, as many obviously, about the UFO phenomenon and the many theories surrounding it, so that's why there are certain references to that in this video. We then see very rapid clips of the early Earth and Moon forming, as well as the very first cells and sea life evolving to the backdrop of people going to work and living in the modern age. Next is a clip showing the diagram of the human brain and different neurons highlighting the thalamus, which is the part of the brain that processes sensory functions, with an image of different theoretical physics equations, which is just to represent intelligence and scientific comprehension of the natural world. Following this is a couple frames showing examples of the first life forms that evolved on the seafloor, including trilobites, and then there is an image of early man discovering fire, which is immediately preceded by images of industrialization, mining, human population exploding, and nature being transformed into man-made civilization. This was to represent the fact that humanity exploded in size and had technological advancement so quickly it was in the blink of an eye relative to geological timescales. We then see more images of UFOs, which represents the fact that after 1945, UFO sightings started to rapidly appear, and some theorize it is because of our discovery and use of nuclear weapons, or even that maybe it could be humans from the future trying to come back and prevent certain events from happening. We obviously don't know for sure, but I think these theories are always fun to think about. Then we have more scenes of my eyes and myself, and then the next scene I love because it shows a famous illustration from the Divine Comedy Dante's Inferno, where Dante is shown God at the end of the tunnel in heaven. And while I believe it is impossible in this life to accurately depict or comprehend God, I believe this image is how I would imagine it, and it is one of my personal favorites. When we zoom into the Tunnel of Angels, we then see Buddha, which is me attempting to bridge two different faiths and reinforce my belief that all religions are different translations of the same being. Then we see a clip of neurons again, which is just to mean that again we're inside of my mind, but also to show the divinity of the brain and its functional purpose and consciousness. Following that clip is a sample from an ad that I saw, where you see like two alien or futuristic looking girls that are looking up in awe, which is just to show how processing all this information or having this sort of experience can leave me feeling. The next video is actually a collage, and it shows city life, urbanization, waste accumulation, scientific and technological advancement, and this was to show kind of what I talked about earlier, which was that certain songs make me feel like I see everything at once, like almost as if the Earth's timeline instantaneously. Following this are clips of Madonna's skinny ass dancing in an image from a photo shoot called Boxing Giselle, which is a really cool photo shoot featuring Brazilian model Giselle Bunchen in a glass box with onlookers viewing her as if she was an object or a statue in a museum. Following that is a clip of people very quickly eating food and not stopping till every last crumb is gone. These three clips put together represent objectification of people, and specifically women, as literal objects, or how people can become branded as profitable products to be sold. The video of the gluttonous feasting is a metaphor for capitalistic mass consumption and exploitation of everything and not leaving one last thing behind. Madonna in the background dancing as if nothing goes to show how conditioned we are to not care about serious issues, and how we have all become so indifferent to them, and how the party just seems to continue no matter the consequences to the world around us. After this, we have a clip that is actually of the launch of Apollo 11 very briefly, which was obviously the first trip to the moon. And I do think that that sound and all 5 engines going off at once is one of the most powerful and awesome sounds that I've ever heard, and the humanistic significance of this technological milestone is really hard to understate, and it's something that I really truly believe never really gets old. And I'm pretty sure that it is the loudest man-made sound. It might be the loudest man-made sound. I know it's the most powerful thing humans have ever made.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running.
Now tell me that shit wasn't cool. I also do think it's cool how the moment the engines ignite, Madonna kind of like throws her hands up as if she's being set on fire or as if she's getting exploded. And that was unintentional. That actually just, when I was editing and I kind of viewed it, they just happened to be placed together like that without any trimming. And I did end up leaving that because I kind of see that as an unintentional metaphor or representation of bombings and war. Next, we have myself posing, and these scenes are, one, to show the idealized version of yourself that you see when listening to songs, like when we feel like we're in a music video, but it's also to show how intoxicating the emotions are while listening to it. And this is obviously shown by the facial expressions and the rapid fire neuron scenes that kind of go in and out. Following that scene, we have a sample from one of my favorite movies, which is called The Lovely Bones, and it actually uses a scene where she it's called Slipping Away, and it's when she's traveling with all these other light beings, which just represents souls. And it's the whole point of that scene is to show people leaving Earth and traveling to heaven or the afterlife, but then it shows her grab onto a flower, and it's just to represent that she gets stuck in between because she isn't ready to leave. And I use this scene to first show how visually the beat of the song pulls you along with it or takes you with it on a journey. And second, I did end up mirroring this clip to show the beauty in the light to represent divinity, and because I do feel as though the imagery that is shown in this scene really mirrors what I feel like a lot of people who have near-death experiences say like the afterlife kind of looks like. After I looked back and ended up editing the video, I felt as if it kind of fit perfectly. So the lyrics are in the evidence of its brilliance, which I interpret literally as in the evidence of God and its divine brilliance in all things, creation and experience. I have lightly spoken about it before, but I feel as though these type of euphoric, transcendental experiences I sometimes get while listening to songs remind me of what it must feel like to briefly know God or connect with the universe and creation. And then also fading in and out of the light are these transparent numbers, which is just binary code, and that is just to represent the internet and how interwoven our society has become with that type of technology, and also even within our minds. And then right before the next scene, there is a quick shot of me checking my clothes, and I kind of view it as like it's in a cocky, like almost like a model type pose, and I only kept that in. Again, this was unintentional, but I kept it in because when I was looking back and watching it, I felt like it was a good way to represent vanity and ego. So after this, we then see the first seconds of a nuclear bomb going off and wiping out a city, which obviously represents war, the atomic age, and I also think it contrasts nicely to the positive beauty of the light and the stars in the previous scene to the destructive beauty of the fire and destruction of this present one. The next scene shows a girl twerking and throwing that thing with different timed clocks overlaid. I did want some sort of video of somebody dancing to obviously show that this is a song, but I didn't really want it to feel too much like a music video. But I did end up keeping that video in. And the different skewed clocks just show relativity and distorted senses of time. Then we see a digital graph of stocks and profit going up, which is just honestly like a stock image to kind of convey economic growth and capitalism in general. Following that, there is another stock image that I actually got from a documentary, and in this part of the documentary, it was talking about human advancement and human scientific knowledge. They were just showing human anatomy up against like a library, and so I kind of liked that to view scientific progress and the collection of knowledge, so that's why I use that. We then see talk show audiences laughing, which is obviously to represent humor, very abstract. And after that, we see very fast images of a collage, another collage of television media, club scenes, festivals, city sprawl, and pollution to the backdrop of that same economic graph speeding up the corner of the screen. And all of this shows intense media consumption, partying, and the graph shows how the images I'm seeing are intensifying. So this journey of listening to the song is going faster and faster, but it's also to obviously show economic growth, profits, and how they're exponentially increasing at the expense of the environment. The next scene is again my eyes kind of moving back and forth to try and show how everything I'm seeing is crescendoing. I kind of like how this gives off like a Matrix or deep dreaming vibe, but also in real life, I'm obviously not that dramatic. I'm not sitting here like with my eyes closed and my pupils, but I actually usually just, when I'm listening to a song, I'm either watching the video or on my phone, and it just happens simultaneously while I'm doing something else. But I just kept this in for like dramatic effect because I thought it was kind of cool. Next, we have myself above thundercloud with binary code next to me, and I wanted to explain this real quick what I was wearing for this. So I have gold leaf and real flowers on my face that you can't really see because again everything is so quick. I'm using a large headscarf that I had that has these gold patterns on it, reflective gold patterns, but I used it instead of my head, I used it as almost like a toga. And then I also obviously tied a headscarf, I think it's actually the one I'm wearing now, on my head. And the reason for this type of look, I was going for an ancient Roman Greek fantasy look because I am highly inspired by ancient mythological art and their philosophies. I kind of view that sort of fashion or look as a classic representation of spiritual or religious philosophy, which I'm clearly fascinated by. So I kind of see it as if you're trying to quickly convey an image of spirituality or intellect when it comes to philosophy or anything of that type in a very old fundamental way, kind of just like in architecture for like government buildings, they use that very neoclassical or classical style because it's like this timeless look. That's what I was kind of going for. It was kind of rushed though, so it's not that good. The next scene is pretty cool, and on the left, which is to represent the global north with wealth, jobs, city infrastructure, and resources, and on the right, it is the global south that is suffering with droughts, famine, and preventable death and disease. So it is a very brief binary representation of the massive wealth inequality of the planet. Next, we see that same light that we saw earlier, again showing that it's still pulling us along faster and faster, and then a satellite time lapse of the CO2 concentrations of Earth with a zoom in on 400 parts per million. For a while, it was like seen that that should have been our goal to never surpass that, but it's also believed the planet has not seen that level of CO2 for 3 to 5 million years. Some estimates say even longer than that. So it is like basically a huge deal when it comes to the changing climate. And then there's a video of Muslims praying in a mosque, and that's just to show more diversity of faiths, and that clip I do really find pretty poetic. Following that, we see more images of famine, animals, suffering, and war, just to show the negative aspects of humanity and the continuing deteriorating condition of the planet. We then see a very fast image pop up from a 2020 newspaper headline that says Code Red for Humanity, which is obviously again a real life example of all the different disasters from climate change represented in a newspaper. We finally then arrive to one of my favorite parts of the video, which is where the speed reaches its peak, and we see very rapid images of animals hunting, diversity of wildlife, blooming and growth of plants and flowers, then to an extremely fast barrage of all types of animals, landscapes, the earth itself, horses, primates, all culminating to the last frame, which is a zoom in on the gaze of a prehistoric human, all in between images of passing through a matrix-like tunnel. This was actually a reference from probably my favorite YouTuber, which is called Melody Sheep, and one of his amazing videos called The Time Lapse of the Universe, which I will definitely link below. But the sequence is really my favorite part of the video, and honestly really does accurately convey the feeling of exponential understanding and connection to all things, and how overwhelming it can become, but in the best possible way. Like I said earlier, this feeling of exceptional understanding and relatedness to everyone and everything is very intoxicating and almost addicting because of how unique and enlightening it is. The whole video is showing you everything happening at once, but this specific part really captures that, how fast, and it goes along with the song. Like the song is speeding up and it just feels like you're feeling everything all at once. So I really liked that part of it. And then after that, the screen fades to white light as the tempo of the song slows, and then we zoom through that light and it is into a portion of the universe that seems warped and bent, which is actually sampled from the movie Interstellar, which deals with black holes and wormholes. And I love the way that film depicts space because of how it chooses to show space-time as curved and dynamic instead of the normal static and flat. So I did like sampling that. This then fades into black as the same spirit that appeared in the beginning reappears, this time in reverse, and we end up zooming back out of the mine and back to the first frame, just showing my eyes, as if in the beginning we zoom in and in the end we zoom out. I really like the full circleness that this implies, and I also really do like to see it as a representation of the cyclical nature of reality, and also a loose reference to reincarnation within that same cyclical reference. So yeah, that was the entire video. It's pretty crazy that a 1 minute and 26 video can have almost, I don't even know how long this is, like almost 10-15 minutes worth of information in it. But yeah, like I said, this is one of my favorites because it really is one of the first ones that I have made that accurately convey what I've been trying to give across when I say these experiences feel like. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I will be uploading more videos like this, as well as obviously the other diversity of content that I've been uploading. But yeah, so stay tuned.